5,000-pound truck, it rolls out pretty nice, doesn't it?
Is it 5,000 pounds?
It is. This truck is every bit of 5,000 pounds.
Wow.
That's what I like about it. You know, it feels
Road hugging weight.
Yeah.
And very smooth ride. Even those are big kind of chunky off-road tires you got in there, aren't they? Welcome to episode of Jay Leno's Garage. Two really fascinating vehicles today. You know, there's been a whole cottage industry of people restoring, bringing back, resto-modding, not just cars, but classic off-road vehicles like the Bronco or, you know, workhorses like the F-250 truck. There's a lot of just horrible ones out there, and then there's a lot of companies that just do amazing, incredible work. And Velocity Modern Classics out of Pensacola, Florida is one of them. These are two of their examples. You know, I had my eye on this company for a little bit, and they've done not just one or two, they've done hundreds of Broncos, and dozens of vehicles such as this one. They put modern engines in them, they upgrade suspension. Well, they pretty much do whatever the owner wants. Let's meet Cody Dabney. Cody, come on in. Good to see you, my friend. Now, what is your exact title?
Director of Custom Vehicle Operations.
Director of Custom Vehicle Operations. I like all those fancy titles. Okay. Now, although this is the one we're going to drive and feature, let's talk about this a minute, because this is the vehicle where you guys really made your bread and butter, isn't it? Doing Broncos. And you've done hundreds of them, is that
Absolutely.
correct? And, you know, I have to admit, when I saw it, you know, a car is like a person. If they have nice posture, they're probably pretty good. You know, something about it, you know. And I just like the way this sits, because I see them sometimes at 3 inches too high, or there's just something that doesn't look right. But, you know, my thing is, if a vehicle looks right, it's probably pretty close to being right, you know? And this is just a very nice job. And you've done literally hundreds of these, is that correct?
We have, absolutely.
Now, how does it work? Do you search the country, find an old Broncos and fix them up, or do customers bring their Bronco to you?
We actually supply the vehicle for the customer.
Oh, okay.
So we source them and then build them to the customer specs from the amount of options and available options that we have. And then we build it in a 14-week timeline with a guaranteed start date and a guaranteed completion date.
Well, that's pretty good, because I know a lot of people, it's been in the shop for 18 months. I mean, it's pretty and sometimes it's not the shop's fault. They're waiting for parts, or they're waiting for the crate motor, or whatever it might be. So when you find one, do you contact the owner and say, we found, and he buys it and then brings it to you, or do you buy it and then sell the whole deal?
We actually have a stock of the vehicles. The customer will contact us. Let us know what they're interested in. We'll put together the template for the amount of options and things they're looking for, and then that's when we'll go into the build process.
Now, just Broncos? Have I had an International Harvester or something else of that too?
That's a good question. We're actually huge fans of the International Harvester. We build a lot of Scout 2s, Scout 800s. We do not build them in a production aspect, but we will build you a custom Scout.
Now, do you do straight restoration too, or all resto mod?
All resto mod.
All resto mod. Okay. Well, let's do a quick resto mod update on this. Which motor does this have?
This is the Coyote 5-liter.
No, I don't need to. You can open it here. Yeah. Boy, it's certainly a nice, clean installation. Look at that. And boy, that steering column just clears there.
It does.
Yeah, it just clears that. Yeah. And luckily, this engine, the headers are a little deeper, so a lot of times the steering box is so close to the headers that it boils the box and the whole thing, you know. Nicely done. And of course, Willwood, those are the brakes to use. We use Willwood on everything. So this is putting out about what kind of horsepower?
About 350 the tires, about 480 flywheel.
Okay. And what chassis are we using?
This is an original chassis.
Oh, it is an original. So you use the original chassis on the car. Okay. Obviously, updated springs and shocks.
It is.
Okay. Original transmission?
4R70 4-speed transmission.
Okay. And of course, the choice of interiors and all that. Yeah. Is this a cut car, or was this originally a convertible?
It came just like this. You can get a hardtop,
right?
But we do build the roll cages in-house. They'll have the option between a 4-point and a 6-point. What this one has is a 6-point.
Right. And that really stiffens up the whole deal, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely.
Makes it much more enjoyable to drive. And it's got air conditioning too, which makes me laugh. I find that hilarious.
Absolutely, everything we build has air conditioning.
Well, you're in Florida, so that's what you got to have. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's nicely done. What would something like this retail for?
Around $268,000.
Okay, that's not bad. I mean, when you figure how much work and effort goes into it, and I imagine you're able to make a profit at that price because of the assembly line So you got all your stuff lined up, you paid for the parts, right? So you know what it's going to cost you. I have so many friends send something to a restoration shop, and the cost of the 2-year restoration, the price is doubled because a lot of times it's not the shop's fault. They get the parts, that's gone up, supply chain issues, all that kind of stuff. So, well, that's nice to know, and I love that. Here's the start date, here's the finish date. So, very cool. So if I buy it on day one, I can buy my plane ticket 14 weeks early and go pick it up. Okay.
Absolutely.
You heard it here. There you go. All right. Well, let's close this up and let's concentrate on the F-250. Now, these have been going strong for a couple of years. This seems to be something more recent in the last 5-6 years or so. People going back to these big old workhorse trucks and making them more viable. I mean, it's a good looking truck, and it almost could be any year from 1970 to now. You know, if you didn't know trucks, you'd think it was a brand new truck, wouldn't you? Because
Absolutely.
Trucks don't change a whole lot. But it's got the classic look and the classic style, which is really kind of neat. Which motor does this have? Same engine?
Same engine, Coyote 5-liter.
Okay. And these are brand new Coyote. You're not going to junkyards and finding some teenager crashes dad's Mustang and you pull that. No, no.
No pullouts, only brand new crate engines.
Well, I mean, that's great. So everything is new, transmission. So you're essentially getting a brand new drivetrain. Okay. Any kind of warranty on that?
We warranty what the factory will warranty for us.
Right. Okay.
So if Ford gives you a 3-year warranty, we give you a 3-year warranty.
Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, very good. Okay. And we know it's got air conditioning because everything you do has air conditioning. So which is more complex to build, this or this?
The F-250 is a little more complex. It's a lot more structure to it. It's a lot more parts.
Right.
The trim is a little bit harder to get. So in my opinion, yes, these are a little bit more complex, and we don't have 9 years of R&D and knowledge behind it like we do the Bronco, but we will be building these in 14 weeks, just like the Bronco.
So do you custom make all this trim here? Because I'm just thinking you buy the trims already there, but most of the times an old truck, the trims, you've been ripped off or dented or smashed or whatever, so.
All the original style trim on this truck, some is absolutely original to the truck, and some of it is just original style. All the billet components we manufacture in-house.
But if I had one of these, I could bring it to you and you could do it, right?
Oh, yes,
You don't have
absolutely.
to have your, have you got these in stock too? Or?
We do.
Wow. Okay.
We have over a dozen of these trucks in stock.
Well, how many employees do you have?
115.
You know, that's great because I love American manufacturing. I love stuff that's made in this country. And the fact that everybody sits at a keyboard now and nobody actually makes anything anymore, I love the fact that all this is coming back. I mean, there's a lot of shops, not obviously as prestigious as yours with as many people, but who knows, someday they may be if they do the work properly, you know. And it's just fun to see that that's become a whole cottage industry because A, you're recycling a vehicle, so you're sort of, I guess, helping to save it. I mean, you're not buying a new truck, you're fixing an old one. So instead of sitting in a junkyard rotting somewhere, it's really turned into a practical, useful, and really, really attractive vehicle, because this is something a guy will keep for 15 or 20 years probably.
I agree.
Very, very nice. Okay. Is there always a story with these things? You know, guys, my dad had one, my grandpa had one. That always seems to be.
This is a truck that we built for a very good customer of ours, and you know, he'd gotten wind that we wanted to get into the F-Series market, and of course it made sense for, he already had one of our Broncos, so I want you to build me the first F-250. He gave us 2 or 3, you know, opinions of how he wanted it built and just let us run with the rest of it.
So is this that vehicle?
It is.
Oh,
yes,
cool. So this
yes.
is the first one you've done?
Correct.
All right, very good. Okay. What else? Let's see. The cab light, were those, did they have those in 70 when this was built?
They did. They didn't quite look that good, though.
Right. Okay. So those are modern. Okay. And what's the cost of building one? Is it more or less than the Bronco?
These start at $285.
Okay.
And optioned out the way you see this truck, it's $325.
Still not bad. I know that it's hard to get your, because when I was a kid, that was 2 houses, you know. So, but
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
But that's where we are now, and that's where stuff is. I mean, I know guys that have had 55 Chevys restored, and they're paying that much, you know. And you go, really? Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's what it is. So, but it's nicely done. Nicely done. Okay. You got the gun rack. You're in Florida. You got to have that.
Yes.
You got to have that. Some more features that this has now that it did not have in the day. Probably air conditioning.
Air conditioning's one. The interior speaks for itself. It's a little fancier than what you'd see in 1970.
Yeah, it really is.
It's got some nice upgraded billet components, all the way down to the dash vents, the parts on the doors.
Now the adjustable steering column, that came into Ford's what, in the late 80s, early 90s?
Very late 70s, early 80s.
So do you use a Ford rack, or is that a brand new aftermarket?
That is a full aftermarket steering column, so that's an I did it.
It annoys me when I see those on 32 Fords. I don't know, it rankles me a little bit. Something like this is fine, but when I see a 32 Ford with a flathead and an automatic, and it just like, okay, no, it's not a 32 Ford. It's supposed to be uncomfortable.
Right.
It's supposed to be, but very cool, very nicely done. And it costs. Oh, I like the way you've integrated the air conditioner. That's obviously a custom piece.
We wanted to keep a classic look, even though it has modern features, it still feels classic.
Well, I used to love that big lunch pail looking air conditioner that fit under the dash. It was about this big, in a big box.
Right.
And he turned on. Did you hear that fan just grinding away?
Right.
But they work. But that looks great. And of course the transfer case and all that, custom upholstery, very nice. Right. Let's open the hood on this one. Well, you got a bit more room to play in this one. And of course this too, Willwood disc. Well, did this have dual masters in 1970? I'm trying to remember. I think it must have by 1970.
By the 70s, yes, they did.
Yeah. Anything you do to this motor other than drop it in? Any parts that are unique to you guys that you put on it?
Yes, we've actually designed our own proprietary serpentine system and headers. So it allows us to get better fitment in the engine bay.
And of course, 1970, since it's an old vehicle, you couldn't put headers on it. Today you couldn't. And the serpentine, oh, I see how, yeah. Well, that's nicely done. Okay. That looks factory to me.
Yeah, that was the idea behind it, to have a factory look and actually serviceable by any Ford dealership. So that's the beauty of both of these vehicles, is being able to take it anywhere, and it's very serviceable.
Yeah, that is a great thing, because I have a lot of friends that have an engine built and it's delivered to the shop, and Larry did the head, somebody else did the cam. So then when the engine breaks, it's all this. Well, your cams, no, your heads are no, yeah, but your lifters, so you get it in a crate, you drop it in, and you've got 250,000 trouble-free miles, easy. Very nice. What's the transmission on this one? 470. So what is that? A
4-speed.
4-speed with an overdrive, or just 4-speed?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, okay.
But overall, it is very clean, serviceable. Anybody can work on it. Basic engine bay. It looks factory, looks OEM, but with a classic vibe.
So what's the hardest part when you get one of these? Is it the mechanicals, which seems pretty straightforward because it's all new? Is it all this little stuff that drives you crazy, trying to find grill pieces and all that kind of?
The bright work is absolutely probably the hardest thing to find for these trucks. There's not a lot of aftermarket out there, and the very little that there is aftermarket, some of it doesn't fit as well. So we had to piece together a lot of the things for this truck to get this overall look.
Right.
But I would definitely agree the bright work is the hardest thing to put together.
Yeah. Well, boy, it just looks fantastic. How about sourcing windshields and stuff? Is all that stuff available, or you have to go to a custom ground glass guy to make that for you? How does that
Glass
work?
is all pretty readily available.
Yeah.
The actual, old school stainless trim that goes around it is far and few between. I think we had to use trim from 3 different trucks to piece that together.
Right. So if I wanted one of these, I pay you a deposit at week number 1, and then you said as you sort of go along?
Yeah, when we go into our contract process, you definitely put down a deposit, and that's when we get started and keep you updated along the way.
Okay. And obviously discs all the way around.
Yes, 6-piston bears,
right.
14-inch rotors.
And this would have had drums in 70, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Even on the front?